We've got a question from Eric we'll get to here, but we also have this question for each other. One character, Alton, choose one character that you would have liked to see survive to the end of the story as we know it on television. We are not talking about the books. That is a different question. We're talking about the TV show. One character you would like to see survive at the end. What does that end? What happens at the end? Are they on the throne? Are they there for the meetings? Or they just don't care? They're having fun in the southern point of Dorne. Where do you go with this one?
This is a big what if, because some of them will cause minor changes and some of them will butterfly affect the entire narrative. My first thing, and I connecting to the Battle of Winterfell, I really am of two minds. Like I love Beric Dondarrion's death. He's one of my favorite characters. He's probably my favorite of the minor characters.
Minors, yeah.
And he's just incredible. Richard Dormer, incredible. And I mythically, spiritually, I like that he dies to keep Arya alive. Like he dies to help somebody. It's like a cosmic hockey assist to bring down the Night King. He exists. Yeah. He exists and has been brought back by his god for this moment. And that I think is one of the underrated parts of season 8.
Love that.
Underrated. Yes. For all the criticism season 8 gets of ruining storylines, that is such a great ending for something they had steadily peppered throughout the entire show.
I agree with you.
But because I like his death, I don't know if he'd be the answer.
So he's dead. You're dead, Beric, for the 9th and final time.
You're dead. It was earned. You did well. This is the one, though, that will change so much by keeping him alive, and that's Oberyn Martell.
Oh, yeah.
What if Oberyn just stabbed him with a poison-dipped blade? And even if he wants to do his mocking just and his
step away
monologuing, like 15 feet that way, because at that point, he definitely needs to get out of there.
Yeah.
Like, you're no longer safe. Like, you can't tell me that if he survives that day, that Tywin isn't like, we need to have him killed. Like, I'm sure that would have happened.
Right. Battle still goes.
Oberyn's not stupid. So it's like, it still would have been like dangerous times for him. And I'm sure Oberyn versus Tywin would have been more of a narrative. But if Oberyn lives, then does the Oberyn Tyrion alliance continue as they're both being targeted by the law and by Tywin? Like you helped my son escape justice. That means Tyrion doesn't leave.
Yeah.
And if Oberyn lives, Tywin lives, because it's Tyrion's escape that prompts him to get into the final conversation with his father. So Oberyn living means that Tywin also lives, which means all 3 players are in King's Landing at the same time. Does Tyrion end up in Dorne? Do you have a Dornish Tyrion alliance via Oberyn? Like, there's all these things that it changes, but then just, shrinking that just to the man, he deserved to live. He's one of the only like pure hero coded characters, but that's the point. That's the point, right?
Sure.
That's the peg. George is always famous for the Aragorn tax policy thing.
Yes,
but they forget that Oberyn is Inigo Montoya.
Yeah,
like he is the suave, swashbuckling Latino hero who has a monologue that he repeats over and over again. Right. Except in George's version, it gets him killed. I get it, but also he had him. Still baby. Years later.
Yeah,
he had him. That's one of those ones where it's like people say, "Oh, I watch Revenge of the Sith, and I think maybe this time it'll be different." Yeah. That's me watching that fight. I'm always like, maybe this time he'll leave.
I'm still with you on that. Where even after all these years, from book to screen, it doesn't matter. You watch that, and you're just like, Oberyn, 2 feet over, man. Man. But again, all the lessons come through. But I think that's a great answer. What is one character we'd like to see survive to the end? And man, it's kind of tough for me. There's so many choices, and there's the butterfly effect, which is part of the fun of the question. Ned, Jared in chat says Bobby B. Yeah, Bobby B would like to see him, but maybe he wises up, maybe he doesn't. I have a deep love of Jorah Mormont, but like your Beric Dondarrion answer, I want to tip tip the cap to him, a tip of the cap. I would have loved him see the sunshine on a new dawn, the sun rise up. But I love the ending. It works for me as a Jorah fan. It was right for me, so I have to let that one go. Then there is Sir Barristan Selmy. And talk about rewatching something. It's maybe not as powerful as the Oberyn one, but his death.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but I thought things would have been a little different. I think he would have, if he's on the shore when they hit that land. I think his advice on him being just such an insider from in Westeros maybe would have helped pull some people over. I don't know. It's a big what if. That's the point of this. But at the end of the day, and again, story wise, I see it. I understand why. But you know who I wanted to survive to the end is Mance Rayder. Mance Rayder.
Oh wow.
I think, and obviously I know in books a little different. We were talking about the show.
Right.
No magic here. He dies. He goes. You needed it. You needed it. In fact, putting that all aside, he would have been so valuable. He would have been. It would have just strengthened a lot of things going on in the north. And then if I think as we go down south even more in the stuff at the end, I think he would have been a voice of reason. I think he would have been a strong influence on Jon. And I just would have liked to have seen him get to that finish line because his finish line was so pure to me. It was about the people. It was not about the throne. It was about the people. Mm-hmm. And I would have loved to see what we'd have done. He probably would have been very frustrated. I don't know if he would have lasted one conversation with Cersei down there at that pit meeting. But I would like to see Mance Rayder gone.
You know, I was thinking about him a lot. I'm glad you brought him up. I was thinking about him the other day, with Andor on the brain in that other universe we love. There's that great scene with Clea and Cassian where Clea talks about choices.
Yeah.
And that like the freedom to make the choices is, I'm paraphrasing, but that's why they're doing it.
Yeah.
And that's exactly the point that Mance makes.
Yep.
To Jon. It's like the freedom to make my own mistakes was all I ever wanted.
Yeah. That
could also be a paraphrase, but I think it's close.
It's close enough. I'm horrible.
And it's
quotes, you know that.
Yeah, that's the theme for 5 points. No, but that's the theme that he embodies is like, what if he's it becomes more prevalent as we go on. More people start to think more outward, but he's kind of like in the early seasons, he's the first person that's like, what if it was not about any of that? Yeah. And he's a former Man of the Night's Watch, so it's like he understands the value of vows and all that stuff, but he also realized there's greater forces out there. Yeah. And it's like, he looked out for people and was able to unite giants and men in these different tribes and people like Tormund, who at the time were like these crazy wild cards. They all understood that he had their best interests at heart. Oh, and he saw them as people when everybody wanted to kill them and treated them like animals. Yeah. So yeah, he was a good dude. Great performance.
Yeah, amazing performance in a small amount of time, and he chews up every scene in the best ways possible. So, yeah, but that is that. So we got other some choices in chat. Addie talking about Jeor Mormont. I would have liked to have him go a little bit longer. I still get mad at that death. Not with the show, but with the people who did it. Sirio Farrell, Jared the TIE Pilot says that. I still look. Yeah. I still when that conspiracy theory came up that he was still alive and there was that shadow, people were analyzing a shadow on the wall that ended up being a shadow. I put aside my reason and my sanity as a Game of Thrones pundit to believe that Syrio Farrell was going to walk out of the shadows in season 6. I was there for it.
Well, Ken, Syrio Farrell is alive. He's Jaqen H'ghar.
Right.
Obviously. That's the other thing is that no, you don't understand. The house had been orchestrating her from the very beginning to be their person, right. And he was Syrio Farrell, and that's how he had the Braavosi coin because he was Braavosi. That way she would think about Braavos. That way she would get like. Yeah. I really admire the theory, guys. I really
theories
do.
Are they're fun.
I don't think it's true, but because Syrio is nice and Jaqen is a dick. But I do think that it's
you think he's a
it's
dick?
Interesting
you
to
think he's a dick? You think Jaqen H'ghar's a dick?
A little bit.
Which version of him?
A little bit.
The one we first meet, because I think he's cool, or the later one where he's
first
Jaqen. He's a little
first
tough.
Jaqen is cool. Second Jaqen definitely tough, and then speaking of Andor, That's where we had Faye Marsay's a big role as the waif.
Oh, the waif.
And you
Yeah.
hate her.
Yeah, I don't like the waif.
Yeah, that whole operation definitely questionable, and I don't think Syrio would be a part of
I
it.
agree.
Although I do acknowledge the Bravos connection, and I get all that. Addie says Syrio survived. I mean, hey, we didn't see a body.
I'm not gonna fight you. I'm not gonna fight you.
I also like the Jared here. All the dire wolves. Yeah.
Oh God. From Lady on, I'm with you on that.
Yeah. You and I being dog lovers,
man.
it's like it's almost worse what happens to Greywind than what happens to Rob. Like,
yeah,
it's like because Rob's at war.
Yeah.
Greywind's is a baby boy. He didn't do anything.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
I guess he's at war.
Yeah, that's still a hard scene. The end of Lady is it's really hard for me to watch. It's as a dog and an animal lover. Oh God, and yeah, because I'm talking about rewatching scenes and fights again. That's kind of this theme submerged today of just like reliving it. I just want Arya to get to that kennel and let him loose every time. I'm like, sprint, run, he'll save you.
Summer dies beyond the wall in the tree, right, with Max von Sydow, right?
Yeah,
like
right.
Is that what happened? Someone remind me how Summer died.
Yep. It happens.
The zombies get her, right? The whites, yeah. And then Shaggy Dog gets killed. By Ramsay, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Fucker.
Man.
Yeah. when Ghost
depressing
was because there's that epic. We've been talking about the Battle of Winterfell a lot today.
Yeah.
But when there's that epic shot of all the Dothraki and Jorah, swords on fire, and Ghost and the flaming, the catapult, the flamings, cannonballs or whatever the fuck they are, all the way over them, and then Ghost is on the side of Jorah and he's running at full speed. Dude, I was begging. I was praying to gods I don't even believe in that he would make it out of that. And then when we hadn't seen him in a little while, I was like, oh god, he got eaten. He got eaten by a zombie. And when he showed up,
all torn up
in the last episode, he only had one ear. He was banged up, but John gave him that. And honestly, I was glad that satisfied me as a fan on a petty level. Because remember, Dan and Dave were getting so much crap for him not being there.
Yeah.
They were like, he just lets Ghost go. That was his best friend. And then who's with him in the final scene? Ghost. Like, come on, just wait. Let them cook, y'all.
Let them deal with the budget constraints they actually did have too.
Let them deal with the budget constraints. Ghost is not cheap, and he was being overshadowed by many dragons.
Karstarks did kill Shaggy Dog, Jared says. And Shaggy Dog is a TV writer's code phrase for a plot that goes nowhere, which is why it's always been used.
That's funny.
Yeah, I don't want to turn this into a season 8 discussion because you and I love that season, flaws and all, because I get it. There's some things, blah, blah, blah. But I was home on my couch, and that shot you're talking about, with flames are being launched, the Dothraki, Jorah, a Ghost. I literally said out loud, I cannot believe I'm watching this on TV because I grew up with that meaning something else. It meant like Airwolf, A-Team, bad sitcoms. Yeah. And here I'm watching this thing, and then like to go to the internet after. I think that broke me for a permanent break from me and the internet on that moment. But anyways, great choices also in chat too. Marjorie Tyrell comes up from Lauren Romo of the Galactic Podcast. And Addie says, I just want to see Marjorie to survive to get to say, I told you so. Marjorie Tyrell, Natalie Dormer wanted to leave aside. Like, absolutely. Her death hurt me too. And she would have been great at the end as well. So
Marjorie, honestly, if Marjorie makes it to the end, assuming that somehow we get a similar series of events, and we could just add her in, however that works in your head. Just walk with me for a minute. If she gets to the ending scene where Jon Snow is on trial for killing Dany, and they're like, what if we all here in this tent selected a leader? I think she gets it. If she's there, she gets it. Because she is... I'm not saying that Sansa still doesn't break away, but I think like Marjorie controlling 6 kingdoms and Sansa controlling the North, I think that is... I think that, I understand the brand, again, not to litigate brand the Broken here again, but like, I get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But Marjorie was truly
I could take it.
the best at the actual boots on the ground, sort of like governance, like
she yeah,
understanding. You know,
she is Westeros, as the French say, Lady D, right? She's Princess
mm-hmm.
Diana. So who plays the game,
100%.
and she's in there too. But yeah, I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
I would have served gladly there. Jared says, I still think they picked Bran. I don't think you're wrong there either, too. Bran, Tyrion makes a case that I think works for me, but
Tyrion also knows something there that he doesn't share explicitly. Like he says the whole like
yeah,
that he knows our stories, you know, what's the whole thing about stories, but like he's not as literal as we are in that moment, which is like no, we are actually choosing
yeah,
a somewhat telepathic being
yeah.
to be our king, which is wise and everything. And can I just say one thing about the stories thing? Now that it's been a few years,
Okay.
how many? It's been 6 years.
6 years.
Has 6 years been long enough to speak my piece about this? I love the stories thing. I really do. This is a positive rant.
Yeah.
When the stories thing happened, I saw a lot of people, again, dragging Benioff and Weiss and being like, this is them just patting themselves on the back of how much they are great writers. And when this show wins Emmys or whatever awards this year, they're going to hold their Emmys up and be like, this is for the storytellers. And like, I saw everybody dogging on the Tyrion speech as being too meta.
Yeah.
No, that is so perfectly in character for Tyrion Lannister. The one who read books because the mind needs books like a sword needs a whetstone. The guy who had his dreams, that wanted a dragon. The guy who believed in all this stuff. The guy that valued their traditions. The guy that knew the history.
Mm-hmm.
That to me tracked so hard. And he's right.
Mm-hmm.
He's right. Like that narrative, good or bad, has always mattered more. Like, what did the most damage to House Lannister? Not really any act of war. It was the rumors, just the rumors of incest, the rumors that they were broke. What kept the North safe? The idea that the Starks were, above reproach and were Teflon. Like, it was always a perception thing. Varys even says that a very small man can cast a very large shadow. About him. Like, that's stories. Story speech is good.
There you go. I don't disagree.
That's my rant.
Story speech.
6 years later.
We got 4 more years to analyze it, right? Is that he says 10 years, right? In 10 years, we'll ask ourselves, we read the right decision.
That's right. Maybe in 10 years, Benioff and Weiss will start doing press for the final season. Because that would be awesome, honestly.
Anyways.
That would be pretty awesome.
Celebrate the release of Winds of Winter and 10-year anniversary. There you go.